Okay, so good morning to all of those tuning in. This is the Rebel Lemon, and today we're gonna be doing something a little special. I have a special guest on, and we get to hear from them. Alright, so would you like to introduce yourself?
No, but I will anyway.
Fair enough.
um, so I am Cameron, or online known as Cameron JK. I am a content creator, most specifically on Twitch, but I work in different platforms, doing art projects, graphic design mostly nowadays for people. I am 32 at the time of this, 33 depending on how fast it goes up. Um, and I'm from the United States.
Alright.
Uh,
So
yeah.
with your art stuff, did you go to school to do these kind of stuff, or did you just get into it when you're young and then it just like translated?
So I went to a private art school for 1 year, and I had been into art since I was able to be into art physically. So literally forever, and it always kind of changed from what I wanted to be. Like I started out wanting to be an architect, and then I wanted to be a writer, and then I ended up having dyslexia, so that didn't pan out very well. Um, but then I started focusing on wanting to do fine arts, and then that focused into fashion design, and then concept art in general is what I wanted to do for college, and that's what I went to college for. But I dropped out after a year due to the stress of college and everything going on around it. Ended up changing my mental health pretty severely, and like every little problem I had growing up kind of came to a head in that, so I ended up dropping out.
Okay.
Um, but never really stopped drawing. I've been a bit busy in that regard the last couple of years, so I haven't drawn as much as I'd like. But like I've done like Tumblr ask blogs that used to be a thing, and I did those, and now I just mostly focus on graphic design. But I'm hoping that will spiral into doing like game dev and at least UI stuff for games, if not further. Yeah.
Alright. So with your background in your art, going to school and basically picking up uh, experience along the way, uh, how would you actually say this affected your process now, and how you incorporate different design elements into your art?
So I think one of the biggest things was that initial desire to do architecture made me really try and understand that, like, specifically with game design or concept art, because like I said, I focused on concept art, is that when you create these like designs for locations, the blank space really does mean a lot. Like you you wouldn't want to have a room you go into that has no windows. That little moment where you pan your eye across the room. If you have a completely empty wall, that wall is really uncomfortable unless you at least put a painting on it. And it's just that idea of knowing when to look at those empty bits and go, there needs to be more here, there needs to be something here. It doesn't have to catch my eye, but I need something there to break up any monotony. And I've used that in every little bit I do, and it's sometimes hard to explain because like I've talked to people that are making something, and they'll have either a really busy background or a really empty background, or they'll have a busy background and their character dead center in the image, and then it'll be bland on one side, and it ended up it ended up making me focus on learning balance in artwork, quotations, but balance, finger quotes. But it ended up making me focus on that little bit and doing trying to explain weighted balance, because like even just using like Minecraft as an example, people always try to put their doors in the center of a build, things like that, where it's like, oh, gotta center the doors on the build. I need 2 doors so I can make sure it's symmetrical and do this and do this. It's like symmetry doesn't have to actually be there, and it's always something that's bugged me, but it's something I focused on learning and trying to really get the hang of, is figuring out that visual weight, where you want the eye to focus on the center, not the actual creation. So you might extend the building out really far to the left, but it's short and tall on the right, so visually your eye still centers on the piece. So it's like one of those things I've always tried to focus on is, if it's something that's supposed to be man-made, you still want it to feel balanced. It doesn't have to be balanced, but it has to feel balanced. It could be trees that distract from it, but like everything you do should have that form of balance, no matter what it is, no matter what your medium is. It could be a huge empty space, but it's a bright color so your eye gets drawn to it, or a dark color so your eye gets drawn to it. But just trying to use that space and use what space you're given properly, knowing when to be empty and when to be full. And I think no matter what the art form is, that's kind of the important thing, is to figure out where you want the eye to be distracted. If that makes sense on the question, is like just distracting people, but distracting people the right amount.
Okay, so kind of like if you have a meal, you want like certain focuses on certain aspects of it, you would use either colored or texture or something that's more visually jarring to draw the focus in, correct?
Kind of, yeah. Like, you don't. I'm trying to think of a really, really good comparison here. It's just kind of like if you had if you have a photo of a family, you don't want the family off to one side of the photo and then just have like an open nothingness, right? Like,
Yeah,
you would typically have the family in the middle of the photo and all the people in the middle of the photo. But if you put the family off to one side, you might have like a giant tree on the left side of the photo and then the family on the right, and they're centered visually by weight. So you kind of like assign things like a point value. Like that tree takes up like 15% of the photo and the family takes up 15% of the photo. So you can spread them as far out as you want, as long as they're evenly spread out, because they take up that same weight. So you're choosing to distract people, but your eye is still able to get the focus. You wouldn't want like that same photo, but the tree be on fire, because suddenly that tree is a lot more interesting than that family, you know?
You just gotta balance it out. Have the family on fire too, you know?
No, then I think the family suddenly becomes more distracting. I think we've gone the other direction then. Especially if you have like one person in the middle who's not on fire and just smiling. It's like, yeah, no, that's my focus. But like things carry a visual weight, you know what I'm saying? Like everything you look at, you're like, that is about, like, you're subconsciously going, this distracts me this much. Even if it's in the background. Like, if I look out my window right now, there's a giant white fence of my neighbor's yard. But there's a cat over there, and I'm looking at that cat. Because that cat's a lot more interesting than that fence or the little tree or that little bush. Like, it's just like, you have to know how interesting things are. And then the less interesting areas, you can clutter as long as you don't clutter to a point where it becomes more interesting than the focus.
Oh, okay.
And that's kind of the case for like anything you do.
So,
It's just finding that, yeah.
Okay, maybe this is just coming from my personal question then. Would you be able to use the background as a way to focus the foreground in a more subtle way?
Yeah, usually that would be done with lighting, but you can also use it like, even using the tree example, if you have like a tree that has one long branch that's sticking out from it, that branch could be pointing towards your foreground, pointing towards something in the foreground. So just finding, like, because other than the weight itself, your eye is constantly darting to certain points in a picture. You're not like seeing the whole thing at once. You're seeing like this person's face is really well lit, so your eye goes there first, and then oh, there's a person nearby, so you're going to ping to their head, and then you're going to ping to the next person's head, and then you're going to go, oh, and then there's a bush here. Like, you're going to create this path, which I believe is somewhat referenced with the Fibonacci spiral or whatever that's called.
Yeah, I have no
clue. like it's not that specific shape, but it's basically a spiral pattern that slowly expands out from a center point, and you have things on that. But your eyes subconsciously do that. It doesn't necessarily have to be that shape, but your eyes subconsciously pick these points and they ping from one to the other. So your background can pull the person back. So like I said, if a branch is like specifically like kind of sticking out, that branch suddenly becomes a point. Or even if a building in the background is in between like the tree that would be in the foreground and the family, that's going to be a jumping off point. So you're pulling the eye back over just with those little details.
Okay, that's actually quite
Or
interesting.
even a bird flying by. Like, it's a lot of subconscious stuff to just be aware of. Like, when you look, like, usually I recommend to people, like, if they're doing something, and this is something like I do with Twitch streams, because my main focus is doing overlays, and I like making overlays that work really well for the type of content somebody makes, be it super busy or super faint. But one of the things I always recommend to people who are asking what to do for theirs is go through the ones that are on there recommended to you right now. Don't tell the people this, but look at them and go, I don't like that. I do like that, and like write them down. And the things you don't like, don't do that. The things you do like, consider doing that. Like, if you see something, if something catches your eye while you're scrolling and it's not something that you don't like, consider adding it. My least favorite color is orange. My overlays, my graphics, everything is an orange yellow.
Okay.
Because when you scroll through thumbnails, that color's rare. That color pops out. You suddenly catch that when you're scrolling. You go, oh, my eye caught that for just a second longer than anything else. And it's just that little bit that makes you, that could be the difference between somebody noticing you and somebody not seeing you at all. And it's just a lot of art other than fine art, because fine art is art in general. Like, if you're drawing versus anything you're trying to monetize, there is the difference in the context of it. Like, obviously the weight matters, but for the most part, if you're not trying to monetize your art, do what you enjoy. I need to like cover that. Do what you enjoy. If it's just making a painting for the sake of making a painting and it's an absolute mess, by all means, like, you don't have to make it appealing to others. It just has to be appealing to you. But if you're trying to catch people's eye, probably focus a little bit more on making it appealing. I'm having cat problems. One sec. There we go. Okay. But yeah, just one of those things where finding that art and that exact balance on it is just it's something you just kind of get in the habit of. And it's like, I don't create as much art as I'd like to. I really don't. I have trouble focusing anymore on anything. Like, because I'm self-employed now, I currently don't have health insurance, so I don't have, and I live in the U.S., so I don't have government health care, so I don't have medication for ADHD, so I just kind of deal with it and go off on my own thing a lot and don't get any artwork done. It's kind of a pain. Someday I'll have that fixed, but...
Well, here's hoping, because so far,
yeah.
I've seen some of your art, and you've even let me borrow some to do the thumbnail, and I actually quite enjoy it.
Yeah, I just had to share a bunch on my art Twitter that are regular drawings and not graphic design. So...
What would you pick as the difference?
What? What do you mean? The
like
difference
between like graphic design and just like normal drawings? I'm not an art snob.
So graphic design, your purpose is going to be more marketability, whereas like marketability, visibility, making things clean, making things precise. Whereas fine arts is going to be more creating paintings to create paintings. Creating a drawing in a sketchbook is not going to be graphic design. Digital art can still obviously be fine art as well, in my opinion. That is a annoyingly argued conversation people have, but fine art is creating stuff for the sake of creating. Whereas graphic design, your purpose is to create a visual to catch the eye, to draw somebody's attention for some other purpose, to me. So, like, it's typically not the focus of the thing. So graphic design is going to be, I did this graphic for a cereal box, so that way you buy the cereal. Like, its purpose is to get you to buy the cereal. It's not to get you to buy the graphic. Or overlays or graphic design, because the purpose is to get you to look at and think, oh, that's a neat overlay, but then stay for the content. Whereas fine art is, I like this piece for what it is, and that's all there is to it. Like, there's not a ulterior motive or a marketing set. And I just sent you the 3 that I had shared on Twitter.
Yeah, I'll make sure to
Yeah.
show the viewers when I
Yeah.
doing this.
I just wanted to let you know that I sent those your way.
I'm actually okay. So I'm curious. How do you? Because there's a whole what do you call it? Like scene around like fine art, and I know it can be quite pretentious. Do you think some of the points are valid, or do you think like they're just too snobby, rich dickheads, or what do you think there?
The one thing I was taught in my art class, and it was taught by my color theory teacher, who he did animation, if I remember correctly. So it was one of those, like, fine art wasn't his thing, but he made us say things and describe why we did things in that class for our pieces. And his main thing was, I know most of you, if not all of you, are just making something because you want to, and that's a perfectly valid reason. But the one thing with fine art and art exhibits and showing off your art is you have to learn to BS your way through making something sound awesome, and sell it to them as having this deep meaning. But
So
and then adding that to, like, back English class in high school was that, like, you always look for these sudden meanings, like, why do they use a red rose here instead? And it's like, sometimes a rose is just a rose because they like roses. There doesn't have to be this meaning behind things. And people try to establish, it's like, oh, that's why they did this. And it's like, sure, I'll go with that. When it's like, there's no reason for a lot of... Most artists generally just make things because they want to. And anymore with artists, especially artists who do it full time, unless they're like one of those that's selling a painting for like 10 grand. Most artists and people I would consider fine artists in general are selling pieces for like $60, which is completely undercharging, but they're selling like $60. And honestly, like, that piece, they're doing it because that's what their client wanted. And you know what? That's enough of a reason to me. And it's like, good art is you put effort into it and you tried and you wanted to make something and you made it. Like, it doesn't have to be this super detailed thing. You made the art you want to do. Graphic design, I will critique, and I will tell you when something's bad if you want me to tell you when it's bad. A drawing that you are making because you wanted to make a drawing, I am not going to insult that thing unless you tell me to. For one of my friends, he's doing a commission for somebody I know, and he wanted me to critique it and find any problems with it. And it's like, I'm not telling anything to be mean. It's like, this would be better if you nudged it over slightly. This would be better if it was a little bit higher. The shadow here is a little weird. And it's like, none of it makes it bad. Just like, you could improve it. And I think that's kind of the big thing with like the whole pretentious aspect and like where things are. And a painting's a painting. And if you made the painting because you wanted to make the painting, good job. If you wanted to create if you wanted to create that flower to have deep meaning in it, then by all means it has that deep meaning. But as a viewer, we can only kind of push our own opinions on art into it, unless the artist tells us. And a lot of times I prefer an artist doesn't tell the audience, and that's something that you'll see with art galleries, is a lot of times they won't tell the people. They'll just have the name of it, and half the times the name makes no sense. I saw an amazing oil painting the other day of sexy Teletubbies, and it was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And it was labeled Pokemon, and it underneath it said "Go Go Power Rangers," and it's like, you know what? This is still an amazing piece. I don't know what your meaning was, and it's beautiful. And that's the thing. Art is create. It's the best thing we as humans can do is create.
So, okay, so that's interesting. So I wonder, so I know you personally prefer if there's no, like, if the artist doesn't, like, tell you the reasonings behind something. Because then that just allows like you to connect with the painting in your own personal way, or like I guess art. It doesn't have to be a painting. Um, but if the artist does have a specific background that they or story to tell with the painting, how would you, as an artist, how would you go about trying to get that point, like that story, across to the viewer? If you couldn't tell them, or if you had to tell them, how would you tell them?
So the main thing usually, at least with art galleries, is there's always little plaques, and there's usually like you have room for like a paragraph or two on there if you really wanted to, or to attach it with it. But a lot of like nowadays you can go to like the artist websites and things like that. But in the past, it's a lot of it's lost. But a lot of paintings back in the day, I guarantee you, had no meaning either. Is the thing. But if you have a message you want to get across, typically, I've seen artists put notes on paintings and things like that, and it's just telling the story with when you deliver the piece is really the only thing you can do. And if people ask, you give more. If it's social commentary, or socio-political commentary, any of those, your piece is probably going to be more blatant in what it's telling because you want to make sure that message gets across. But if it's usually, I think that's kind of the thing. If an artist really wants to make sure you get the message, they're going to do everything they can to make sure that that painting conveys that message. If it's more subtle, they probably just want you to interpret it your own way and have that personal message. I don't think there's really a like right or wrong way to deliver it, but I think if an artist wants you to know, they'll make sure you know. If they don't care if you know, they're just going to create.
Okay.
And they're going to just do their own thing. Obviously varies artist to artist, but I think that's kind of the thing. Because I've never seen an artist make a painting that has like some emotional connection or some story with it that like didn't have a blurb with it that explained that exact thing. Like, this is why I did this. And I think it's because a lot of people have seen artists or people who will claim to understand the meaning of a painting and to be like, that's completely off base, and I'm not letting people confuse this.
AKA, you're high as hell. Stop saying shit.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, it's just a flower. I painted a flower because I thought a flower would look good there. That's it. A flower doesn't mean anything. Or there was a flower there on the scene I painted, and that's why the flower is there in my painting. Like, I used a real life reference, and there was a flower there. Like,
I find that there's when people are like telling their like views on a painting, whether it's right or wrong, it's always interesting because I find that there's like a few different types of people, and the main one is like, yeah, this is probably it, and then the other one has a whole fucking essay on like why this painting is telling this specific story. God.
I think in those situations, it's not so much somebody caring about the art. I think it's somebody wanting to be the center of attention.
Mm.
I think most people who appreciate art don't really want to push their thoughts on a piece or what it means. They just want to observe the art and the technique and maybe the composition itself, but not its meaning. At least in my experience, like most people at the college I went to, we all just kind of wanted to look at the art. We never wanted to like talk about the piece. And I think that's kind of a we're rich and this is a thing rich people do type thing when it comes to like talking about art and the meaning behind art. But those are also the same people who can afford to pay artists to make art for them, or they can buy those paintings. And I think if you're going to drop multiple grands on a fine art painting to have in your house, you're going to want to have conversations about it so people know you have that painting. I don't think most people genuinely care. I think people care about books and what the meaning behind the book is, because obviously there's a lot of writing and things that go into that. But most paintings, I personally feel that most artists paint to paint or to pay bills.
And I'm assuming you
And
both?
sadly, it doesn't pay much anymore.
Oh, no, it doesn't?
Oh, no. most artists are severely underpaid. I mean, you go way back, a painting would set people back at least 4 digits, and nowadays you're lucky to get 3. It's just people don't respect art as much anymore, and I think a large part of that is because digital art exists, and digital art is just as impressive as physical art. And but people who don't do art think the computer does most of the work for you, and that's where I think a lot of the value has been diminished. And then you have the problem is people view super famous people such as Banksy, for instance, where just his name is what's selling it. It does not matter what he creates. He could literally spit and people would pay thousands for it. Like, it's not. People are getting it just because of the name attached to it, and they don't care about the piece. So,
well, yeah, because one of his pieces sold for millions, and then it sold for millions more after the frame shredded it.
Yeah, after he did that himself, and it's just, I understand, but there's been lots of papers written on it, but a lot of fine art is high priced as it is, literally for tax breaks and things like that for rich people. There's no actual value behind most paintings, but at the same time, if people are paying tens of millions for a painting that he literally created a stencil and spray painted and could make thousands and thousands in like a week of that same painting, but didn't. Why is that valued any higher than a painting that somebody spent a week on and looks millions of times, shows millions of times more skill? You know, but they'll only get maybe $300 if they're lucky. But most commissions in digital art, unless there's somebody who's already got renown, they're not breaking triple digits. They might hit like $80, $90. There's no respect for artists anymore, but I don't think it's so much a lack of respect, but because paintings aren't something people need, and a lot of people don't have expendable income, they aren't going for it. So a lot of the problems may be more related to the economy rather than distaste for artists or disrespect for artists.
See,
if I made $50 an hour, I would be able to fund artists more. And I love art, so I would fund artists more. And I think that's kind of the case for a lot of people. But a lot of people in the world right now are barely paycheck to paycheck. And I think the people who are paycheck to paycheck are more likely to appreciate art than people who have too much right now.
So okay, I'm curious. So there's a lot of artists that turn online to either upload or even create art via the online methods. So
yeah,
do you think this also might be causing a reason to as why some people might not value the art as much, or like the artists?
Are we talking about like AI art?
No, not
or
not
okay,
AI, like actual.
Because that's horrible. But
yeah, no, I'm actually talking about the actual people themselves, where they just because online has allowed us to become way more connected than ever before, and allows so many more people to be seen, I guess. Do you think like there's oversaturation in that market, and if it could be?
I think that's an issue we have just in general with culture, not just specifically to artists. Because like, when's the last time you saw a tailor? Or when's the last time you saw an actual like bakery? That is like those things aren't as common because you have these big franchises that are multi-state, multinational, that people know and recognize. And this is something that like even goes back to just having a car hurt all these things just as much. Because you don't have to stay in your town and you're able to go to another town, suddenly a tailor has a much harder time getting business because the one town over is slightly cheaper or does a better job. And it's So while it is an oversaturation thing, I don't think that's something that's unique to the artist field. Um, I think that just means, just like other ones, is you have to do something really original or something that makes you stand out. And it can be really hard with bigger names, but I think artists probably have that easier. Um, they have a lower cost threshold to enter. So there is the same oversaturation. I'm not saying it's easy to get noticed, but your distinct style is going to be more easily noticed in art than it is of opening up a small coffee shop and, oh, your coffee is delicious, but you're going off word of mouth there. But online, you can market yourself worldwide, so you kind of break that balance. So it's easier to get noticed, but there's a lot more people you're fighting against to get noticed by. But it also has a cheaper barrier for entry than a cookwood or a coffee shop, where you have to put down 5-6 digits to get the building, to get the permits, to get the license, to get all that stuff. So that is a much higher barrier of entry than an artist, which is, if you're doing digital art, that is the cost of a tablet, which depending on the tablet you get, or if you're doing pixel art, you don't even need a tablet, you just need a mouse and then the quality of your PC. So
Okay.
lower bar of entry, meaning more people, but it's more what work you put into marketing yourself and making yourself visible and making yourself desirable, versus a like home shop where you've only got the only customers you're going to get are people in your town. It's not going to expand beyond that, and then you have to compete with those in your town. So size of the ring changes, but it's a lot easier to start as the one, and it's a lot easier to get noticed as the one. I'd rather be trying to make it as an artist online than trying to run a shop myself. But that might also be the introvert in me. I don't know.
Okay, so then, I have two questions that spawn from that. The first one would be, seeing as a lot of art is subjective to what people enjoy, should an artist be more focused on making art that is more marketable to a general audience, more specific, or like a combination of the two?
I think that's going to depend mostly on the artist and what the artist feels comfortable doing, because I don't think I know of any artist that will do anything like, oh, I'll learn this style just for you, unless their prices are going to be massive. Because if I have to learn a new style of thing, like if somebody expects me to draw in an anime style, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. I don't have that ability. It's nothing against the style. I just can't do it. If I would have to learn that, the price is going to be obscenely high. Now, granted, somebody might be able to do all these styles just on a whim, but I'm also going to suspect that they might be copying things. That's a recent thing that's come up with some well-known artists, of finding out that they're basically tracing other artists because people commission them for a thing. They're like, I'm going to do it. It's like, well, that's because you're charging $1,000. But
Yeah, and that would lead into the second question. What, because there's a lot of art theft, either like tracing or people. I don't know if you'd count this as art theft, but like someone like closely copying your art style and like your little quirks in your art style, or even like just big marketing brands, China, stealing art pieces and throwing them on like t-shirts and mugs and all that kind of stuff. How does an artist like deal with this kind of stuff?
for the most part, they can't. The only thing that can really be done for a lot of that is proper watermarks. And then, so like a lot of artists that do sell their stuff on shirts and things like that, I usually always recommend in those situations that like the t-shirt sites that you are going on, all the uploaded versions of your image on that page, try to find ones that have like images of it already on the merch, and then they're slightly like at an angle and they show how it looks on the merch, rather than having that clean graphic. And then watermark everything. The things you post on Twitter, you can disable HD uploads on Twitter. So if you're sharing it on Twitter, disable HD uploads and then post the image that way, so it gets super JPEG'd and artifact. So it's low quality. So at least make it so that way the stolen stuff looks worse.
Okay.
Worse than your actual stuff is the big thing there. And then to answer the first one of like this concept of like tracing and things like that, and I don't think there's a real problem with tracing to learn, but tracing to do it as a piece is a problem. I think rotoscoping is fine for animation because there's more to it where you're tracing over live footage for it. But if you're tracing somebody's artwork, they need credited. You should not be profiting off of it. It should not be done for anything as profit. You shouldn't be using it even in advertising, things like that. There's been issues of people getting doing commissions from people for an art piece of their character, but then they use it in thumbnails and they use it in like banner advertisements. They'll have that drawing that somebody did of them, and it's one of those like, you didn't pay for marketing, you didn't pay for merchandise, you didn't pay for that. And usually, and like when it comes to commissions and stuff for that, like say a drawing you did was $100 or $200. You're looking at probably 5-6 times that added on from a lot of people for it to be something that you can sell or use as marketing material. And a lot of people don't even think to ask artists about that. And there's been backlash. It's like, no, you paid for the piece for personal use, not for other things. And
Do you think a contract in that case would help prevent a lot of people from paying for art and then using it to make money off of?
a legally binding contract typically would have to go through a lawyer, I believe.
Okay.
So even if you did, it really, the amount of effort it would take to even do that would cost an arm and a leg. So a lot of it would probably end up being like small claims type stuff, and then it's just a matter of keeping a record of the conversations and making sure that the payments are marked properly. Like if you're going through PayPal for a payment or whatever, make sure you have a note with the thing that says that that was what this is for. Make sure as the artist that you're the one sending the thing to them and they're not just paying you, because then they can put whatever they want on it. Send it as a bill, get the receipt, make sure you pay taxes on it, make sure that if something does come up and you choose that if you do have the ability to go to small claims court, you can go to small claims court with that. But for the most part, with as far spread out as things are, just get payment up front.
Fair enough. Also, I will say this, mostly because, like, I'm not doing my in-character thing for this whole interview, but, like, if you're online, never comment, I would love to have this on a t-shirt or something. There are, companies have algorithms going on and searching for these kind of, yeah, and then they will, like, take the art, throw it on the art, so please never say this.
Always say it underneath posts, though, on Twitter where people are showing off fancy NFTs they got. Always say it under those.
Fuck NFTs, God.
Right. No, that's what I'm saying. So you always leave that comment, so then a whole bunch of sites start profiting off the person's NFT, and then it's everywhere, and they're screwed.
Mm-hmm. Hell yeah, I agree. Okay, so I actually do have a question. So let's say you make...
I assume this is an interview. This is kind of the point.
Fair. Thanks. Fair enough. So let's say you make a character in a, like, walking pose, right? But it's just a picture, right?
Yeah.
If someone else took that and they put in the work to actually put that into a small, like, loop animation, how would that go? Would that be like a new piece of art now? Or...
So it is a new piece of art, but it is not their art.
Mm-hmm.
It would be like somebody drawing their character in, I mean, just like a redraw of a still from a cartoon is a common trend. They'll like redraw any frame and then they'll take that frame and like, I'm gonna draw this in my style.
Okay.
There's this line where it's like, yes, it's your creation, but if it's from a business entity, it's one thing, but if it's from a person, it's another thing. So like if I'm drawing over a scene from Disney and I'm drawing it in my own style, that's my piece. But if it's like an artist that makes their money making their work and I'm redrawing their thing, that is my piece their style, their reference. It's not right to profit off it. But like, if I draw over Sailor Moon in my style, that's my piece. I can sell that.
Okay.
It's a matter of, is it a public image or is it a private image?
Mm.
And there's a line there that probably has to do with how many eyes are expected to see this, how many people write. Like, is this character recognizable? I think is usually the big standard on that.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Which, if you're worried about it, just draw Winnie the Pooh. As long as you don't put him in a red shirt, it's your work. Nobody owns that anymore.
Oh, really?
As of last year, yeah. That's why there's a horror movie about Winnie the Pooh coming out.
Oh, right. I read something about that.
As long as you don't, I believe it's called Blood and Honey, is the official name.
Yeah, something like that. It's where we're like.
Which I would like to argue that they should just call it Blood Honey, and adding the ampersand in the middle ruins it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I'm okay. I'm okay with it. Either way.
But yeah, their copyright finally died, and then Mickey Mouse, I think, ends in 2024.
That's if they don't get copyright extensions, because they've been.
Well, they have no grounds for it as of right now, so they'd have to change the law at this point.
Well, they have, like 5 times already. That's why they've held the Mickey Mouse copyright for like so long.
Yeah, but they got to argue with Florida on that one, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah, but it's Florida.
Yeah, exactly. It's Florida. Florida hates them.
Oh, really?
Well, at least the people in charge in Florida hate them, so...
What the fuck did Disney do to Florida?
Supported gay people?
Alright, okay.
Yeah, that's all it is. That is 100% like all it is.
I mean, it checks out.
Yep.
Look, I am so glad I don't live in the States. Holy shit, it's just, it's something else.
I don't believe the States are arguably any worse than most places. However, people have suddenly realized they can be vocal about it. And that's the problem. And it's gonna spread the more people realize they can be vocal.
I mean, hey, call me communist, but I like my free healthcare.
You're paying for it. I mean, you're paying for the healthcare. It's a good thing. Democratic socialism is a good thing.
Yeah, it is.
Like, voting as a country to go, hey, if we all pay into this, we get this back. Like, that's a good thing. I think that's just one of the things that the last 6 years have shown me more than anything, is that a lot less people have empathy than I thought, is all it is.
Because, like...
Empathy is the best thing in the world, and so many people lack it.
Yeah, and some people are just, like, so... like, they benefit from it, and then, like, years later when they don't need it anymore, they, like, distance themselves from the thing they benefited from. And then it's like... Then they argue against the system, and it's like, what the actual fuck? So, like, my example here would be my father. When he was younger, he had, like, a brain tumor. It was one of the biggest ones that were operated on. The size of a golf ball or something like that. All free, because of the country he was born into. And being paid into and everything. And then, like, I've talked to him recently, and this is one of the bigger reasons why I don't talk to him anymore. He was saying that, like, it's kind of bullshit that my taxes go to pay for someone else's healthcare and all of this stuff, and it's like, you benefited from this. What are you talking about?
Yeah, the sheer number of people that have not realized, like, a lot of people have been complaining about paying for people's college loans. It's like,
I mean,
most of the big name people that are complaining about people benefiting from college loans took out business loans. So...
Yeah, and one of the biggest things is, like, the more we help each other, the more we benefit ourselves too, right?
Yeah. The U.S. is falling way behind because of those issues of not benefiting each other, and everybody's moving out of the country that has the ability to, which tends to be the people who are with the degrees and making the good money. They're all leaving.
God. Yeah, that's really bad.
You can come move here. Well, because like one of the big things is a lot of like I was hearing a thing about there's a huge number of Indian and Chinese doctors coming to the United States to learn medicine because we have good schooling for that,
Mm-hmm.
and because they're able to travel over here, they're able to get grants based on like the requirement is that like after they graduate they stay for 10 years or whatever and do yada yada yada. Well, after that's up, they go back to their home country. They're not staying. They don't have any incentive to stay. They got the education, and now they can open up and help people in their own country and better their country.
Yeah.
Like, like, why would they stay here when they get nothing but harassment and people who don't care about each other? Like, there's no.
Yeah, because the only benefit for them staying here is that they can make probably more money here. Or well, in your country,
But
and then
like
send it back.
but it's a comparative thing. It's like yeah, more money here, but like if they make a certain amount of money here and then go over there, they don't really need to. And again,
Yeah.
if it's empathy, money doesn't come into the equation. As long as you can, as long as like say it's a hospital, as long as you can stay open, that's all you need. If you have proper empathy, profit doesn't come into it.
Yeah. Like, the only reason why I could see doctors from other countries, like, staying here and putting up with the harassment is making that money, but then funneling that money back to their country to actually fund programs.
Yeah, which is a case a lot of the times. It's
Yeah. And it's like...
which I am not opposed to them doing that. I completely understand them doing that.
Yeah, because it's like...
I would do that too in their position.
Yeah, and I understand it, because the countries they come from, like, they had to move here to do that. And that's not feasible for, like, majority of people. So, like, giving the people, like, having the smallest amount of empathy and giving people from your home country that ability just to, like, learn in your own country is a really big
and
thing.
a lot of people leave their families behind to do that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And if North America in general had better immigration ability and availability, then their family would probably come over and they'd stay. But we keep making it harder and harder for people to immigrate here. That's not going to work either. So
Yeah, and like, if you're gonna make it harder to immigrate, at least help out these countries so they can be more self-sustaining.
well, most of the countries awkwardly are self-sustaining. It's just there's other issues, and it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing, and I'd rather not get into that one.
Okay.
I'd rather not get into politics too much.
Yeah,
It's not that I disagree with it. It just stresses me out.
fair enough. I don't know enough about it. I'd have to do like weeks worth of research before I even want to talk about it.
I am chronically on Twitter. I know way more than I want to know.
Look, I'm young, but I act like a boomer, so I mean, I'm not kidding. My friends all call me a fucking boomer. Simplest.
I mean, boomers are like 70 now, aren't they?
Actually, they're like 80, aren't they? Yeah, please Google.
Yeah, I'm going. 64 is the end of it, so that would be 67 years old is the youngest.
Oh wow. Okay.
67 would be the youngest, and then it's approximately 20 years, so 67 to 87.
Huh.
Give or take.
Okay, that's a lot older than I thought, but... Oh, sorry, a lot...
Before that, it's the silent generation.
Yeah, that's because they didn't say shit. No one gives a shit.
Yeah. Wow, I like how old this graph is, because it's like, oh, yes, 55 to 73. This is based on 2019, is baby boomers. But that's 3 years, so it's, 58 to...
Yeah, they're actually a lot younger than...
58 to 73.
Huh. That's really young.
I think the thing, what I always find funny is, like, Gen X just doesn't exist to people.
Just forgotten.
Like, it's like millennials, then boomers. It's like, there's Gen X in there.
Yeah, but no one cares. Because the millennial... You gotta realize, the boomers are these, like...
Hey, according to most people online, literally the youngest generation is always millennials, which is weird.
Yeah, that's true. Because, like, oh, what is the arguments? It's like the millennials blame boomers for, like, ruining the economy and everything, and then, like, the boomers blame the millennials for ruining everything they enjoy, and it's like, yeah, that's because like we can't afford anything.
Yeah.
And
Which is
then,
why it's always funny, the whole like, well, if you stop getting coffee, it's like somebody did the math on like if they got their own coffee machine instead and how much it would cost. It was like if they got a like full on like espresso machine for their morning espresso that they normally get, it would cost them $600 to get. Their normal cost of what they would spend per year on espressos at like it was like $2 a day or like $250 a day ended up being over $1,000. If they got the espresso machine for the $600, that would be the $600, and then ignoring that first year, they would save $800 a year, and I don't know where they think they're still going to be able to get a house.
yeah, no,
Because like the amount of time that would take and the cost of a house is like even a down payment of a house would take at least 15 years, and that coffee machine's going to break before then.
and then you have to replace it, and then you set back that much until you. Yeah.
That just reminds me of a post recently of nobody's buying avocados anymore. There's like a surplus. There's like a surplus of avocados or whatever, and all this stuff. And it was just like, oh, but I can't have my avocado toasted. Now you have too many. See where that got you.
Okay, look, avocados are great. So who's ever tuning in to view this, buy more fucking avocados.
Oh yeah, it was just there was a lot of articles for a while claiming that avocado toast was why people couldn't buy homes because it was so expensive. Like, have you seen the house prices in California where you're referencing this?
Have you seen them around the world? Any good?
Yeah, but
country
no,
that
but
goes-
like, but California specifically is like on minimum wage in California, you would need to work 120 hours a week
yeah,
in
yeah,
order
fucking
to
minimum
pay
wage
for
in-
a place.
minimum wage in like so many places. It's like you can't even afford like a cheap apartment in some cases.
Oh yeah, it hasn't changed since like the 90s.
God.
Since 93, minimum wage hasn't
awful.
changed.
It's awful.
Yeah. Like in my area, it's like 40. I think it's 48 hours a week, and it's like my state's one of the best in the country for minimum wage compared to cost of living. But it's just because the cost of living is really low where I'm at. So it's not that minimum wage is good. It's just that there's nothing here, so things are cheap. It's like no one wants to live here.
Yeah, we recently raised minimum wage to 1650 or 1655, something like that. From
I just want to
$15.
know that your minimum wage is double mine.
Oh my god. Well, my
Yep.
dollar, even if you take into account
Your dollar is slightly, yeah, but it's still like 75% more.
Yeah, yeah. But like even with our minimum wage, they can't fucking afford like apartment prices because like a one bedroom apartment around where I live, oh my god, it's like over $1,000. How can you afford that on minimum wage?
Yeah, I got lucky. I bought my home as a foreclosure. So it was
Nice.
nobody was paying the bills. They were just trying to get rid of it to get somebody into the home, and they didn't really know the value of it. And it's not a great home, so I got it for cheap, which has saved me a lot on bills because I was able to pay off my home
Hey, that's pretty
because it was
awesome.
cheap. When I had a good job, now I'm self-employed content creator.
Well- Welcome to the broke life. How does it feel?
I'm an influencer. I hate that
God.
word.
Oh, I feel so sorry for you.
I do have to go soon, so can we ask like one or two more questions? And
Yeah, sure. I guess the next question I would ask would be, or like one of the final questions I would ask would be, at least art-wise, what do you get enjoyment out of it? And inspiration-wise, what gives you inspiration?
my favorite thing to do in art, honestly, is recreating. So it's a slightly mean thing, but I like finding slightly broken graphics. Like I love recreating graphics from video games and stuff like that. That's one of my favorite things to do. Like special effects they've done, see if I can create it in my own way. I have them as like special sound effect cards that people can play on my streams to make different effects happen. Like the game over effects from Grand Theft Auto, or the victory scene, which you have in your thumbnail from Fall Guys, things like that. Like I love recreating those, but I try to do them but better. And it's this. it's more of a challenge to myself to see if I can recreate something that they've done. But I get a somewhat gross satisfaction about the fact that I did what they did, but better, because I have this really, really bad habit when it comes to video games and stuff, and I notice the slight things. Like, I'll go to my friend's streams and I'll note that, like, hey, your overlay is offset by 1 pixel. You forgot to lock it. And they're like, wait, what? And they'll have to adjust it over because they're like, I had no idea. But I notice those things. I break every game I play. I find these little flaws, and it's just something I do subconsciously. Like, Fall Guys has driven me nuts since day one because they've always had in the upper left corner, there's a small black bar under the description of the levels that has sometimes extra information, sometimes not. It's offset by 1 pixel to the right, and there's a white line on the left side, and it's just always been there. So, like, when I recreated the graphics, I fixed it, and I tweaked things, and I like making things look better than the official. So when it comes to just, like, recreating those effects and making something cool, it just feels special to be able to go, like, hey, I did this, but I improved it. And it's like, if I ever really wanted to reach out to these companies or whatever, I could possibly show off that thing, like, hey, I saw what you did and I tried remaking it and I think I made it a little bit better. What do you think? Like, it's kind of like I'm creating a demo reel, but I don't have enough focus to create a proper demo reel. But I love doing that, and I just, it's a sense of pride, like, hey, I made this thing and I did it better than the official one. It's like, those people got paid pretty well to do this. They've got a marketing deal. Like, Fall Guys is like official stuff with Epic Games, and it's like, I'm a nobody and I did better than the people that are actually, like, on a payroll. And like, it's a little sad to think about, but at the same time it makes me, like, really happy, like, hey, I did this, like, check it out. And or I'll find, like, little things that could be tweaked, or like, this would be cleaner this way. And I want to focus on doing game design stuff so I can do these things myself and fix them, but I have trouble focusing on them. Like, I have ideas for a, like, post-apocalyptic Animal Crossing game that's actually really fleshed out, but it takes time. You know?
Yeah, I understand that. Well, thank you for coming on the show, showing your side of things, and just talking and having fun.
For sure.
I really enjoy it.
Definitely.
I hope I can have you on again in the future.
Yeah, hit me up anytime.
Hell yeah. You know I will. So,
Yep.
as the outro, why don't you give them your where to find you again, and then we'll go from there.
All right, it is probably going to be in your description, but I'm going to say them out loud. CamronJK is how you spell my username. I am on Twitch and Twitter mainly. If you want to make it easier, you can just go to CamronJK.com, CamronJK.com, and it'll send you to my Twitch. But yeah, that's the easiest way to find my stuff. I stream 5 days a week. It's supposed to be twice a day. It's only once a day right now because I suck at sleeping. But but yeah, that's the easiest way to find my stuff. Or you can go to join my Discord with discord.CamronJK.com. They're all, it's Discord, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, whatever, .CamronJK.com, and you'll get the right site. So hopefully I hit all of them in there, but you never know.
We'll see.
But yeah, that's the best way to find my stuff, and thank you for having me on. It was fun.
Yeah, always fun to have you. Thank you.
Yep. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too.
Goodbye, everybody.
So, that was our special guest. And I enjoyed having them on. They were pretty cool. I can't wait to do more interviews with more creators, especially with Camron JK. So, I would highly, highly recommend checking them out. They have some really cool content, and they seem to be a really cool and chill person overall. But, until next time, thank you for tuning into The Frequency. This is the Rebel Lemon, signing off. So, good night, and sweet nightmares.